Hi,
Hi,
Lily.
Lily Bloom.
You guys know each other?
No,
A little bit.
no, we
We met a few months ago.
meet again.
It's good to see you. So, this is the flower shop that my sister works at because she's bored, huh?
Oh, we'd like to say inspire. But yeah, this is yeah.
Looks like we will be seeing a little more of each other then.
Is that so?
Hi, besties. What is up? It is Katie Joy. Blake Lively thinks that she can stop her PR backlash with content creators by simultaneously like withdrawing one subpoena at a time against people that are fighting back, right? She had several creators last week file motions to quash, each of them outlining why it was completely inappropriate for her to, one, even subpoena them, two, being it was a constitutional violation of the First Amendment, and three, that she had no evidence or proof and that her team wasn't providing evidence or proof to the court or to the people involved. Like to my attorneys, she said that you're part of a smear campaign and I know it, but she didn't say anything. Last week, I spoke to News Nation, by the way, and today the article dropped, and it's pretty funny because this is the first time I'm pretty sure the mainstream media is calling Blake Lively for what she is. Desperate and narcissistic. Blake Lively is coming after us, content creators. That's the headline. This is with Paula Froelich, who I think is amazing. I've gotten to know her. She interviewed me last week. And this is a dive into, the fact that she's going after women. In fact, she writes, Lively's doing a scorched earth campaign against those she thinks Wallace, Baldoni, Nathan, or Abel enlisted in their supposed fight against her, apparently unwilling to believe that any criticism is merited. However, some of those content creators say not only do they not know or have been in contact with anyone on Baldoni's team, their criticism came about organically due to what they say is Lively's bizarre behavior during the promotion of It Ends With Us, as well as information that Baldoni's lawyers put out on the lawsuitinfo.com, the website that gives a detailed reaction to Lively's complaint against Baldoni with receipts. Scorched Earth campaign. I like that. I was interviewed and my story's featured in here, and I'm really thankful to Paula, who has been like such a champion for content creators. She was also an independent journalist for a very long time. And she said that you got to stick together when you're in this industry. And if she's going to go after one person that's an independent journalist, anyone is at risk. So thank you, Paula. Paula also has me coming on to News Nation tonight. So I will be on News Nation tonight to talk about Robert Shin, the cult leader that was raided by the FBI. If that's a story you haven't delving into, you should check it out. It's going to be a big story. It already has been. It was on the Netflix series Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok cult. He was raided last week by the federal government, including the IRS, the United Postal Service, the FBI, the U.S. Department of Labor, similar to the U.S. Department of Labor that Blake Lively never informed about what was going on with Wayfair. Never contacted the U.S. Department of Labor. Well, they raided him, and he is now under investigation for sex trafficking, mail fraud, forced labor, COVID fraud. It's a whole story. And the series on Netflix gave a really big understanding of what's happening. But since the raid, there's even more to talk about. So I'll be on News Nation tonight, hopefully with someone else from the group. We're still waiting on final details, but catch me on Ashley on Banfield tonight. Okay, so getting back to Blake Lively is I'm kind of grateful that she subpoenaed me in the one sense because it's given me exposure and helped to build my solid work And it's been able to help me build relationships with creators that I never would have known. I feel like there's been a camaraderie between those of us that have been subpoenaed. And honestly, it's been a good experience in that we've been able to learn more about each other, help support each other, champion each other's work, support one another as they fight her. If anything, what she did is she brought together a group of women that are standing up against a bully. And then those women are like, hey, you're kind of cool. I like you. So thanks, Blake. Thank you for that. But in court, she's trying to just skate out of this. That's my opinion because she's filed motions to withdraw, right? And the judge then withdrew them, right? And he said, okay, yeah, these motions to quash are moot. And then he said sanctions are not appropriate because she's going to withdraw the subpoena and you don't get to ask for a protective order for anyone else that that this subpoena targets because you can only talk about you and your role in the subpoena, which is a federal rule. You can't seek relief for people that are not you, but people got mad about that ruling. But Blake is very cognizant of the fact that sanctions are coming. Well, one of the creators, Lauren, who's Lethal Lauren, she is also Court of Random Opinion, who's like the sweetest human being on the planet. She wrote this letter to the judge, and she's kind of pushing back on Blake's letter to the judge. And she said, Miss Lively's subpoena targeted creators who have expressed unfavorable opinions about her online, and the subpoena was not supported by any evidence. It served to intimidate, harass, and chill constitutionally protected free speech and threatened the safety and privacy of non parties who are not involved in this litigation. Miss Lively's counsel was largely unresponsive when Movement attempted to meet and confer or ask for clarification. Miss Lively could not offer an explanation as to why Movement's location, data, bank account information, or credit card numbers, among other random private information, were relevant to her litigation. Then she calls out Ezra for representing to the court that they were going to be withdrawing these subpoenas based on statements that they had made publicly or in their papers or whatever. And she says that aside from two brief, fruitless attempts in scheduling, the council unresponsive to movement for long periods of time, no meet and confer occurred. Movement did not provide Lively's counsel with any information sought in invasive subpoena. Miss Lively's statements that there is no further requirement at this time, coupled with the fact that she did not receive any of the information sought, suggests that there may be further invasive and inappropriate discovery attempts made to obtain Movement's personal information and private data that is completely irrelevant to this litigation. This imposes an undue burden on Movement and serves to harass and intimidate Movement for her lawful expression of her unfavorable opinions of Miss Lively online. Oh, she's so funny. She also speaks about how she has spoken unfavorably about Miss Nathan and Jennifer Abel as parties or in the lawsuit, but they've never tried to subpoena her through a federal court to get her information. And she says that to say the movement may have been part of an untraceable campaign is also nonsensical. There's no evidence to support that theory, nor is there any truth to it. Movement's motion explains the basis for her unfavorable opinion of Miss Lively, and it does not involve a scheme with the Wayfair parties. If Movement were somehow involved in an untraceable smear campaign, that campaign has failed obviously and disastrously, as Movement's thoughts and opinions are based on entirely traceable information. Movement has even demonstrated the process of obtaining this publicly available information multiple times, so the public may be informed of how to access it. I think it's funny because, and I'm not laughing because I just know Lauren and she's so funny. She's so funny. But it really is so interesting when you think about almost every single creator that I've talked to when this first came out, when the lawsuit first happened, they believed Blake. They literally believed what she said. They were sympathetic and empathetic to her, and they truly felt bad if this was the truth, right? And it was a pretty compelling narrative. And if the New York Times puts it out, it lends a sense of credibility, even though we now don't believe the New York Times to be very credible. But, you know, like Lauren, most of us we're able to form our own opinions based on very traceable information and behavior that she has exhibited. And if there was any doubt in my mind that this is all fabricated, there's none anymore. And that's the same for all of us, because the fact that now that we are being brought into it, it's just telling us all that it's all a sham, all of it. Um, but she's seeking a protective order, and she wants them to bar her from, you know, being able to take out any more subpoenas without a court order. Or she said they want a court order prohibiting Miss Lively from issuing any further subpoenas or discovery requests directed at movement without the prior leave of court. And then she also asked for sanctions and attorney's fees. Okay. She's also seeking sanctions from her motion to quash. And unfortunately, the judge said, well, the subpoena is quashed, so there will be no sanctions. And I think that should just sort of tell you that she's withdrawing these because there's clear fear that she would be sanctioned for this. Because the fact that she's not even responding to these motions to quash and instead is just like, oh, this looks really bad. And oh, our attorney might get in trouble. And oh, I'm going to have to respond to 43 motions to quash. Yeah, maybe you didn't think about that, Blake. But, I don't know who's advising this woman. And I don't know if the attorneys in this case don't care and it's just a payday for them. But they're not helping themselves and they're not helping her with these moves. And it's only further driving home this concept that she's the aggressor and that she enjoys bullying people, and so does her husband. So, separately, there were two other motions to quash. One is filed by Lynette. She is the girl that went to high school with Blake, and she has an account on Twitter. Much like other people, she is calling Blake out for trying to get her information. And she even goes on to say the movement has not participated in any defamatory or unlawful actions. The subpoena seems to focus on identifying critics or commentators involved in a widely publicized entertainment dispute. Requiring disclosure in this context amounts to retaliation against protected speech, unless there is a clear demonstration of wrongful conduct. The court acknowledged that strong criticism, even if erroneous, is an essential element of freedom in a democratic society. To safeguard this open exchange of ideas, the court ruled that public officials must prove actual malice with clear and convincing evidence before seeking damages. Therefore, Ms. Lively must provide compelling evidence to support her allegations of a smear campaign before she can access the movement's private information. Content creators are entitled to freely engage with and question her claims in the context of an ongoing public case. She says that it's an attempt for her to intimidate and suppress valid criticism. And then separately, this account, Swifty Forever, she wrote a motion to quash under a Jane Doe not to identify who she is. And she even calls out Blake for defamation. She says Movement's expressions on the X platform reflect personal opinion and commentary about a public figure and are based solely on publicly available conduct or media reports. Accusations suggesting the movement is a part of a coordinated or paid campaign are baseless, speculative, and defamatory. To the contrary, Movement's posts exemplify the spontaneous and organic commentary by a private citizen regarding a public figure, a right protected by the First Amendment. Plaintiff appears to operate under the mistaken belief that negative remarks and criticism from private citizens must be part of an organized, paid effort, rather than recognizing that individuals are free to express opinions about public figures based on their own independent observations. This is simply the inevitable consequence of holding public status, where scrutiny and critique from private citizens are constitutionally protected and expected. I think it's really interesting how freely, how she freely just accuses people of crimes, right? Oftentimes, when you're a reporter and you're reporting on someone and they've committed an illegal act and you're reporting that, they'll be like, oh, that's defamation. And you're like, well, you actually did this thing, right? But here, in this case, she's trying to discredit just random people and content creators, and just in this case, an account on Twitter, and to suggest that this person is working for Justin, and then effectively accusing her of a crime because she's, a paid person working to discredit a victim of sexual harassment. She has gone out of her way to defame so many people in this case under the guise of litigation privilege, which is frustrating, right? Because it's the same thing that Justin found himself up against. She made the claims about him in a CRD complaint, what the judge says is proof that it's, a public record that was filed in a public place, but it wasn't a freaking legal record. It wasn't. And it wasn't necessary for her to put all that information to the CRD. It wasn't. But the judge believes that it is. And so everything that she says in that complaint and then through the New York Times, he claims is litigation privilege. And if that's the case, then nothing she says about us is litigation, is defamatory. So she's basically using this lawsuit in a way to just get back at all the people that criticized her, whether it was during the actual promotion of the film or otherwise after. And she's doing it through a legal channel so that she herself doesn't get charges of defamation or sued herself. And to use a tactic like this is a manipulation of the court system. It's a misuse of the court system. It's an abuse of the court system. And I just think it's really unfortunate that the judge hasn't curtailed her behavior, that he hasn't demanded that subpoenas be issued through him and him alone, that there be some level of rope given to her so that she can't keep doing this. I actually agree with Lauren's letter. I just don't know if it'll be effective. But she might think that she can get out of this, right? By withdrawing all of these after the fact. But if you're withdrawing them so quickly just because it makes you look bad on a public docket, you're not really sorry. You're just sorry you got caught. And I want to just say that there's this whole vibe in Hollywood, and it's ask for forgiveness. Don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. So if you do something and it's filmed, or if something happens on a set, don't ask for permission, just ask for forgiveness. So don't ask the court for permission, just ask for forgiveness when you get caught. And it's like this cancer that exists in Hollywood where it gives people this level of entitlement where they don't have to even think about their choices because, well, if I do it, I'll just ask for forgiveness. Well, if you know it's not right and you ethically know you shouldn't do it, you should be asking permission to do it in the first place and not doing it and then begging for forgiveness afterwards. That's my view on this. And the more this goes on, it's just tarnishing her public reputation even more because now you've got mainstream media basically calling her out for being a bully, for going after women, for literally targeting women when she claims that she's a voice for women. She's not a voice for women. And she's somehow escaped accountability with the judge because she's like, well, I'm just going to get rid of that before you can send me sanctions. Why don't you actually grow a pair, Judge Lyman, and do something to stop her abusive behavior instead of allowing her to continue? The judge is responsible for keeping order in his court. And in this case, I don't think he's doing that. But as far as the legal nightmare here is not over because, people have until the 31st to respond, which seemingly means more people are going to file motions to quash. And then on top of that, even if she withdraws all of these, the damage is done. And who's to say that she's not going to file more subpoenas against people anyway? Seems like she thinks there's an unlimited, subpoena power. She's completely lost the plot. All right, y'all, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.